I was just going to talk about, they're waiting for Mr. Stanford to get on. They'll still be disruptive when he comes in.
Because we're short. I mean, Bob is not going to be here. Yeah, that's pretty. Hello.
Oh, now you are calling. Hang on a second. Try that.
Okay, before everybody leaves here, we are the Environment Committee, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew we were here. Okay, we have a fellow that is going to be calling in, and he's the person that has a history dealing with the salmon and the problem of the loss of salmon in British Columbia and the rivers. And he's been following it for some time now, and he's got some very important things to say to us. Now he's going to be Skyped in, and he's going to wind up on the screen over there at some point when we get a hold of him. And I just found out that we gave him the wrong time. So it's a matter of us trying to get a hold of him, and eventually he will be plugged in.
Oh, here, he's just coming in now.
Oh, good. Okay, in this case, because he's coming in on Skype, I'm going... Stop. That's what I'm going to do.
Know any good jokes?
Anyway, yeah. Yeah, I know a couple. Oh, maybe I shouldn't tell them here. This is a family.
That's not maybe.
Hello?
Oh, hi, Bob? Don.
Hey, this is Don, yeah.
Yeah, hi, John. This is Bill Lightbound.
Hi, Bill. How's it going?
Pretty good. As a matter of fact, now that you're on, it's going a whole lot better.
How's the technology doing?
Not bad. By the way, you're in front of a whole big audience here, and they're hearing everything that you're saying, so don't tell that joke, eh?
Okay.
Anyway, Don, I would like you to explain the work that you have been doing in dealing with the salmon, and the history of your work, where you've been. For instance, I understand that you paddled down the river this past year.
Yeah, we did a get-out migration walk in April and May down Vancouver Island with a mass rally at the BC Parliament in May with 7,000 people, and then we followed this up with a paddle for wild salmon down the Fraser River from Hope into Vancouver in October. The Mayor of Vancouver all joined us en route, so it was a great kind of mass participation event for everybody.
Yeah. Maybe you can also explain why you were paddling down the river, why you were walking, what brought that on?
This was to raise awareness of wild salmon issues and how we need to stand up and pull together for wild salmon. The primary issue here was against open net cage salmon farms. These are 92% of the salmon farms in British Columbia are owned by Norwegian companies. So the message was quite crystal clear to the companies. We want them to get out of BC's waters. So we did a walk and a paddle down Vancouver Island and down the Fraser just to raise public awareness that we don't want open net cages in the waters of British Columbia.
Right. Okay, just for a second here, I'm going to explain to the audience here, probably the majority of the people here are quite aware of the fact that we have been losing gradually over a number of years the various runs that have been coming to the rivers in British Columbia for the last 100 years. And going back to the time that I started fishing, by the way, and I don't know how I got into this, but anyway, I started fishing in 1950, and I can tell you that in 1955, in 1 week, the boat that I was fishing on, the same boat, we put in 110,000 salmon in 1 week. Now today you can't get 110,000 salmon in a full season, no matter how many species you fish for. So what I'm really saying here is that gradually over the years, the salmon have been disappearing in our rivers for numbers of reasons. And Don has been a person that has been following that process and has been becoming aware of some of the reasons why we were losing the salmon. So having opened it up that way, Don, what have you found besides the salmon farms that have been detrimental?
Our sole focus has been on the salmon farms and raising awareness that we want wild salmon. There are obviously other issues like global warming and gravel extraction and dams and overfishing, but certainly on the campaign that we focus on, it's primarily against the open net cage salmon farms and support for closed containment salmon farms on land or floating in the sea in containers, and a move of the salmon farms away from wild salmon migration routes. You know, we shouldn't be locating Norwegian-owned salmon farms, and they're farming Atlantic salmon, not Pacific salmon. This is an alien species in the Pacific. We shouldn't be farming this species in open nets on wild salmon migration routes. And just last week, there was a new scientific paper showing sea lice from the farms. These are parasites that attach to the flesh of the wild baby sockeye as they come out the Fraser River. These are impacting on Fraser sockeye.
Right. How about other species? Is it other than sockeye as well that are being affected?
Yes, the science is quite clear-cut on this, from the Broughton Archipelago, from Clackwood Sound, from the Discovery Islands, the Wild Salmon Narrows, everywhere in British Columbia where salmon farms aggregate, they spread sea lice, and they're impacting on pinks, coho, chinook, sockeye. So, and the evidence is clear. I'm from England and have done a lot of work in Scotland and Norway and Ireland. And in Europe, we've lost our wild salmon populations. And I think in British Columbia, we have such a plentiful supply of wild salmon that this is probably the only place on earth that we can save wild salmon and make a stand against these Norwegian-controlled multinationals.
Hey, Don. Jay Peachy here. Jay Peachy. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jay, you've done some great work to stand up for the salmon as well.
Can you just explain the kind of role of art? Because there's a lot of artists out there that want to participate, and we've got an arts and culture panel after this, but maybe from the movement, what do you guys see and how that integrated?
I think what we've managed to do over the last year is increase public participation, and really energize communities, not just on Vancouver Island where the salmon farms are, but also in the inland interior, up the Fraser River watershed. Alexandra, Morton and others, we traveled up the whole Fraser system. We met Chief Marilyn Baptiste, who'd successfully fought off Fish Lake. So we've managed to connect geographies, the coast and the inner Fraser, but also connect fishing communities with First Nations communities. And the whole salmon issue, it's not just an issue with salmon farms, it's an issue with the Enbridge pipeline. You know, if we have an oil spill, it'll affect the bears, the eagles, the salmon. If salmon go, you know, they fertilize the forests, they sustain First Nations communities and fishing communities across British Columbia. So this really is, you know, it's a salmon issue, but it's also a British Columbian issue. You know, last month, the public voted to have salmon, Pacific salmon, as the emblem of British Columbia. That's how important salmon is. So I think as we develop over the next year, and tomorrow in Vancouver we have an event for the love of wild salmon to celebrate our love for wild salmon on Valentine's. Tomorrow we have people across Vancouver and in Victoria, in Duncan, sending Valentines and giving a message of love for wild salmon across the province.
I think for the movement, there's a lot of activists that are very in-depth with the issues about sea lice and science and that kind of thing. But the way art can speak in the cause is really put an emotional connection with salmon. Obviously, Aboriginal First Nations communities, that's part of their culture. There's a lot of celebrations around salmon. And, you know, in Vancouver, there's not really salmon celebrations because we don't have streams other than on Musqueam that bear real fish. So, I mean, the other one is, in Capilano, there's Coho Festival. So why in Vancouver, where we have thousands of people that consume salmon, we don't celebrate it? And you know, this is salmon are a keystone to a number of different species. There's 500 different animals, including humans, that consume fish. So it's really kind of galvanized a lot of different movements, whether it's culture and economics. So that's why people are standing up.
Yeah, and I think the Mayor of Vancouver, the fact that Gregory Robertson, he paddled with us the final day into Vancouver in October on our paddle down the Fraser, the fact that he made the month of September in Vancouver a salmon month, shows that the city of Vancouver is a salmon city. It's one of the only cities in the world where salmon migrate through the city. So I think the people of Vancouver and the people up and down the Fraser should appreciate and realize that salmon really are sacred. And this is why we live, or a lot of people live up the Fraser River watershed. They followed the salmon as the ice sheets melted. The wild salmon migrated up, and people have lived off wild salmon, and it's sustained not just bears and eagles, but communities up and down the Fraser and whole cities, the city of Vancouver, based upon the wild salmon economy. And now we've got Norwegian multinationals coming in and killing off wild salmon. And I think this is the fight that we're going to face for the next year or so and beyond. The question is, do you want wild salmon? Do you want to be able to eat healthy, nutritious wild salmon that sustains the forests and societies? Or do you want this privately controlled, fatty, contaminated, Norwegian-owned farm product? I don't think you can have both. We can't have healthy wild salmon populations and salmon farms.
Right.
John, this is Rose Collins from Musqueam. I just want to thank you for the work that you have done with wild salmon and getting others involved, including me, last spring. And I want to say that our salmon, we had 47 streams in Vancouver area that had wild salmon, and Musqueam is the only stream that's left that has and had not been intervened with, and it's there. It's there for us, and we still maintain that creek.